Good morning. We'll go ahead and start and get our call meeting to order for the Firefighters Pension Board. So first item, let me get back to my agenda, sorry. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item is open forum. Anybody in the room would like to speak? Thank you.
I just want to say a couple words on the record.
Okay.
We're just, since our last meeting, we're coming off two very significant weather events in the city of Oldsmar. And I think it'd be remiss not to acknowledge the effort of not just the citizens, elected officials, but the administrative staff of the city. Everybody came together as a team. It was a proud moment. Everything worked great. We wish we went a little bit further south, but still altogether came through very nice. A lot of good lessons learned here too, but just a real blessing on the community. And thanks again for all the first responders, not just the local ones, but everybody that came in from out of state. We have 50,000 electrical workers here doing lines. And the fact that we're up to speed right now, a week later, is pretty amazing. So just want to throw that out there. It's good stuff.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the July 15th meeting.
I'll approve the minutes.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Approved. Second item is approving the excused absence for Steve Ham from the July 15th meeting. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Approved. Next is quarterly pension plan investment report for June 30.
Okay, I will take that one for you. I'll go over the dollar amounts first. For the quarter, we started with 10.5 million. It was 87,000 in contributions that came in, 86,000 in earnings, paid out 22,500 distributions, had a little over 18,000 expenses. So your ending balance was $10,685,872.53. And then the following couple pages would be the accounting of that. Any dollar-related questions before we get into the investments?
No.
Okay. Let's see, for the quarter, so again, this is June 30th, and I'll just kind of highlight this real quick and then bring us forward. So obviously, unfortunately, we're probably a few weeks short of getting our September 30th final numbers, but clearly a lot's happened since June to now. But for the June quarter, we did see a little bit of a slowdown in the market, which was okay because we had such a huge December and March quarter. So the fund was up 81 basis points or 0.81%. Fiscal year to date number, though, as I said, such two big quarters to start out with, was still up 13.78%. So a really great run continuing through June. And then jumping forward, as I mentioned, through September, July, we kind of went on a little bit of a roller coaster ride in the September quarter. July was a huge month. Probably added conservatively 3-4% to the portfolio just in July. August came around and promptly took all of July's winnings back. And that was related to, there was a huge jump in the unemployment report that I think kind of shocked the market a little bit. But really throughout the rest of August, we kind of just made that money back most of the gains we had in July that were erased at the beginning kind of worked their way back in August. And what happened there is I think a lot of people saw that huge jump. Again, as I said, unemployment was over 0.5%. Historically, that would lead people to think, okay, we're not headed towards a recession. We're actually in a recession based upon that type of pop in unemployment. But what they saw was it really wasn't mass layoffs that was creating it. It was actually, there was a large swath of people that were looking to get back into the workforce. You know, people, a lot of people, of course, we lost a lot of jobs through COVID. And a lot of people just said, I'm good, and have stayed on the sidelines since. And I guess, I'm presuming, which is a dangerous game, but you know, the cost of living is gone up tremendously, as we all know and feel. So I think that's kind of driven people back into saying, well, shoot, I gotta go back to work. But the timing now is not as favorable as it was even a year or so ago for people looking to get back into the workforce. It's a little tougher to get jobs right now, even though there's a lot of openings out there. It just doesn't seem to be quite as easy for people to fill those spots. So that was what was contributing to that big jump in unemployment, was people looking to get back into the workforce but not able to find jobs at that time. So again, we saw the market rally through the rest of August. Then September hit. We had another big pullback right at the beginning of September. And that was more just nothing necessarily one single huge event or anything, just more concerns that maybe the economy was starting to finally slow down some. But since that initial pullback in September, the market's been rallying again. So really, all in all, I mean, as we sit today, we're pretty much at or near record highs in most major indexes. So we're continuing to the market's continuing to chug along, continue to provide really good returns. So conservatively, you know, I think we're gonna probably end up with it, I'd say at least 16-17% return for the year, maybe even higher. Depends on, we'll have to see what fixed income and really what real estate looks like. You know, that's kind of a little bit of an unknown. The way they do this is core real estate, so it's really, they're only at the end of each quarter do they go in and look and appraise their assets and then provide what's the word I'm looking for?
Valuation.
Thank you. That was, provide the valuation once each quarter. So there's nothing that you can kind of track. So we'll have to see what that comes in that. But again, all in all, it's been just a tremendous year, and all else being equal, that of course will help with trying to bring that contribution rate a little bit back down. You know, we're still hurting as it relates to contribution rate, still paying the price from 2 years ago when we had that huge down year. So it's gonna take several really good years to kind of recover from that from a contribution standpoint. But again, the assets and the returns overall are had a great year. So, and first few days of October, moving along pretty well so far. So, again, high level overview. Certainly, if you have any questions or want to talk about anything a little more in depth, be happy to.
A couple questions. On the real estate side, do you know what a breakdown is between office, data center, and residential?
Very little residential, no single family, only multifamily. There is the best breakdown I have. This in the report. I will give you a page number. Is it okay? Got there faster than I did. Thank you. Page 83 has a property type allocation breakdown, where you've got it broken into apartment, healthcare, industrial, office, retail, self-storage, and then your catch-all other.
Oh, good, excellent. I know the office is a red flag, and I'm hearing just a lot of that with renewals and a lot of debt service coming due on those too. Also, I guess I want to say it's not a coincidence that everything's been great since we've had 2 new members appointed to the board. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but we'll still take credit for it.
I say, I'll give you credit for it.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences, right? Yeah.
Are these properties all in Florida, or are they throughout the country or the world?
They're throughout U.S. They're all U.S. based, continental U.S. based. So you've got it from California, Florida. Actually, a couple of the biggest properties happen to be in the state of Florida. And I'm guessing they're done by now. So industrial warehousing has been a big office, as you alluded to. That's been the headwind for real estate since COVID. But industrial warehousing's been booming. They were actually building a huge warehouse off of I-4 between, here and Orlando. I'm guessing that building's probably finished by now, but can't say for certain. So there are some holdings, certainly here in Florida, but it's, across the country, but no international. And that's also on that same page. It's broken out with just geographic reach. So East, Midwest, South, and West, just a percentage breakout provided there.
Thank you.
That core and retail investment portfolio, who holds the assets? So for instance, I know it's your fund. Is it in your trust as the custodian, or is there a fund that you invest in available on the general market?
Well, not the last part, but yes. So Morgan Stanley is the real estate manager, and that information would be on that first page, page 82. Well, no. Yes, page 82. You can see just a little bit of highlight information, but yeah, it's Morgan Stanley. So we're an investor in the fund, the total pension trust fund. It's not the everyday person does not have access. It's $100 million minimum.
So it's
to even get into it.
institutional. Okay.
Correct.
You mentioned I-4. Unfortunately, I've been I-4 recently. Home Depot closing 4 distribution centers. The pandemic the demand didn't maintain. Very concerned about having the pension funds in core real estate. The spread doesn't make me feel any better as to the diversity within it. Just a comment. I know we don't have a choice, because you either pick A or B, and I don't even think there's a C.
There is a C, but they all, A, B, C, all have the same real estate.
Exactly.
Exposure,
So I would like to, and perhaps at our next meeting, just have an agenda point on a deeper discussion on where we want our risk to be associated. The same way with international. I think international is potentially based on the age of our firefighters, how close they are to retirement, international seems to be, and I know that goes counterintuitive to the templates that a lot of certified financial planners use, but again, just trying to minimize that exposure to global issues associated with our pensioners.
Sure. A couple things, if I can, on that point. I actually don't disagree, at least in theory, with both the things you said. A little bit on the real estate, because what we did is before we had the real estate, we had more fixed income. And when you look at the performance of the pension trust fund, since we took 10% from fixed income and moved it into the real estate for, again, all the 3 different ABCs choices that you were referencing, it's provided a great boost. It gives us diversification without interest rate sensitivity. This particular fund is.
Whoa. You just said something that makes absolutely no sense.
My next statement was.
Real estate is 100% influenced by interest rates.
I'm not saying it's not impacted, but it doesn't have this particular fund, and that's why we went there, doesn't have the same interest rate sensitivity that a typical real estate fund
I
might have.
agree with that statement.
Because.
The previous statement I had issue with, because it is very sensitive to interest rates.
Yes, and the reason why it's not as impactful with this is their strategy is there's not a lot of buying and selling of property. They're not near as levered as a typical real estate fund. They're predominantly looking to have long-term properties with high occupation and making I think 80+% of their income is derived from rent, and that's their model. And now if they were moving property on a regular basis and did have a lot of debt, then certainly I wouldn't disagree that the interest rate would play a much larger role.
Okay.
And so for that reason, That's why we really like this manager, and if you look at how they performed versus any other real estate portfolio out there, I think they're kind of undisputed about as good as there is out there. Probably, I mean, I would argue they're, for years now, they've been the best. To your other question about or statement about the international exposure that we have, the part I would highlight is that even if you do have a quote-unquote older population as far as the members within the plan, two things are at play. Is we're still looking at potentially 30-year investment horizons for those individuals because, you know, we're expecting them to still work out their entire career and then have hopefully full, long-lasting retirement. So we're still looking at a very, you know, 30-year probably plus. I don't know what the youngest member is off the top of my head, but a long horizon still. And again, all of the monies within this fund are commingled with, you know, a fund that's pushing $2 billion in assets. And because of that scale, for us, we believe it does make more sense. Now, if you had, you know, to your point, if you had a 10-year lifespan and it was just this $10 million only at play, I could see where you would say, hey, we need to lower volatility, control risk, as long as you have enough funds already there and you're not creating a higher contribution rate. So those are just kind of my two thoughts to your
Understood.
point, so.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can mitigate Israel, Ukraine, China, I'm pretty comfortable with global investments.
Quick question, is the international fund, is that a non-US international fund, or does it incorporate some holdings in the US as part of an overall international?
It is not, well, no, it's non-US. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. There's one of the interesting things, well, I found it interesting for the people who are not necessarily participating in or following closely in the investment world. There's a lot of mainstream US names that you don't access without being in an international fund, because that's kind of the way the game's played. So, yeah. I always kind of, when I was first getting into that world, I always thought that was interesting that if you've got a S&P 500 and you'd say, well, what about that name? Oh, they're international, but they're, you know, a large company within the U.S. from a name, everybody, household names type thing. You know, but that's not relative to there, just something I found interesting along the way.
Any other thoughts, questions for Jeremy? Thank you. Next item is the administrative budget report as of September 30. So this is year-to-date so far?
Correct. Yeah, this is just informational, this particular item. The next item we'll need to take action on.
Looks like we're within our, within everything, within the budget. Any questions or comments on this?
Our fiscal year is
Ended 9/30, just
Okay,
ended.
good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no questions or discussions? Thank you. So then the next item is the presentation of the administrative budget report. Oh, sorry. The proposed administrative budget report for fiscal year 25.
Correct, yes, and that's on the next page, and this is, since we only do it once a year, I'll caution and remind you all, even though it says budget, we're not allocating funds, we're not setting anything aside. It's really, all we're doing is, it's an exercise to estimate what we think the expenses will be for the plan next year. Typically, we'll have a little buffer in each of the line items. Worst case scenario is if you spend whatever cost is what you spend. If you end up spending a little more, not on line items, but in the total amount, that we just come back and file an amended budget showing why. Other than that, it's just more of a statement of what we think things will cost. So, now, certainly, if you want to change any of these line items, change the total dollar amounts in any way, we could do that. I mean, it's certainly up to you all, but this is kind of just a jumping point for you all. But at the end of the conversation, we do need to approve some budget here.
One question on the insurance, is this just a premium increase or is this a coverage increase? Going from 2381 up to 4,000?
Well, so it's not saying the insurance is gonna go up to 4,000. We're just saying we're gonna budget, we're gonna state that insurance could be up to 4,000, so we're just throwing 4,000 in there.
We're not adding coverage, we're just,
Correct. We're not, yeah. Anything you approve here is not an actual approval of this, of spending that amount of money.
But it does set the expectation for these kinds of increases.
Want
Otherwise,
to look at it that way, you could, I mean, that's a,
well, isn't that what a budget is? What do you expect when our city does budgeting, what do we expect next year's expenses to be? So what
Correct.
we're saying here is we expect to pay $4,000 for insurance next year.
yeah. It's the budget word and that's why I
So
started out.
what ends up happening is I don't want to see us get trapped by the budget. Okay, and what that means is, and I've sold to cities, states, counties before, guess what the proposal's going to come in for insurance next year? $4,000, that's what you guys budgeted. There's a way that you manage this, and for instance, other line items, auditor accounting has a 54.99% increase year over year. So we're getting more audits to the point, or are we getting less audits? Is it different? What's happening? So this sets and I haven't done the math yet, which my accountants can, but if I take the $20,000 delta, I'll just do some rough math. That's about a 45% increase in the budget over prior year expenses. And I'm just asking the question, why?
Because it's not, and that's why.
It doesn't matter, or because, don't worry, it's just a budget? Tell me what you think.
Certainly, you all are welcome to have it however you want. I would say, and that's kind of what I said at the outset, is even though it says so let me back up. The state asks us to do that, to do this exercise. This is why we do this. They've said.
It's a good idea.
At the end of each year. But what it is that they're asking for, they have used the word budget. Most people that I work with, most attorneys, I think, would probably tell you it's not a budget in the traditional sense. So, which is what you're referencing.
I get that it's not legally binding. What I'm saying is that in order for you to come up with these numbers, these estimates, I would assume they're based on something besides a gas. So that's where the question comes in, did our coverage change on insurance? No, it didn't. Okay, so we're expecting a 20% increase in insurance with no additional coverage. Okay. Next, auditor accounting. It's going up 54.99%. Are we getting more auditing? Are we getting less auditing? Or did they the cost of an auditor at the firm that does the audit, did it go from $250 an hour to $450 an hour? And if it doesn't mean anything, why are we even bother going over it? Okay, you're wasting our time if the budget doesn't mean anything. So fill in the blanks, tell me what we got.
I think also it would be helpful if we had a column here that shows increase, decrease over prior fiscal year.
Actuals.
Actuals, yeah.
I don't want to budget over budget.
Yeah,
I
like we
want to
had-
see what it is because right now, I'll tell you my mindset. An accounting firm comes to me with a 55% increase in fees. No, we're going out to bid. Go ahead.
At the last meeting, you approved a standalone report.
Yeah.
So that is more expensive.
Yeah, I saw that in the minutes. I read the minutes, yeah.
So that's why it has increased, because last year we did not have a standalone report.
Okay, thank you. And the standalone report, and I apologize for not being here at the last meeting and missing this. Is the city getting audited? Okay, so we're auditing the city's principles, accounting principles, and the city gets a separate audit done, correct, on their financial statements? So we're auditing the audit of the city. And just for everybody's benefit, background, public accounting, so I understand, it seems like we're auditing the audit of an auditor that we've already said is a good auditor, right? Okay. For anyone who can't see, there's a nod happening. Oh, excellent, good, good.
Yeah, if you'd like me to comment,
Yes, I would, certainly, yes.
there's an option to have the audit of the pension plan in conjunction with the city of Oldsmar's ACFR, the
Yep.
the financial report. Or there's an option to have it issue a separate report in addition to also being included in the city audit. It's still separate audit procedures and tests done for the fire pension. It's just there's a separate issued report with additional note disclosures that aren't in the city act.
So then let me ask I'm glad you're here, let me ask a very specific question then with regard to the audit. Are the account balances that we hold in these investments part of your audit?
Yes,
So you go to Morgan Stanley. and
we
you-
go to the Florida League of Cities.
Okay, so we're not, so Florida League of Cities is telling us the money's there, and we check, we audit them? Or we just, what do we,
We audit the
that they gave
investment,
us the report that
Right.
showed the balances?
and they confirm that independently, that those are the balances.
So
But
they
we don't
can,
go
they're
outside to
responsible
third
for
parties.
confirming that these, and Morgan Stanley, in the particular case of real estate, physically has that balance as the custodian, as the management of that account, that those balances are there.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would believe the.
Oh, yeah,
Florida
our,
League
the
of
pension trust fund is audited, yes,
Yep.
every year, yeah.
So my point, and first off, just trying to avoid the Bernie Madoff situation where folks are fabricating, and I trust Morgan Stanley, right? I mean, big name, perfect. I did note it, I didn't, on some of the other funds, I didn't recognize the management firm. So that's why I'm kind of drilling into this to get more detail, to make sure that the pensioners' money is in fact at these accounts and the balances. Because that's really my concern with an audit. City's doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. Florida League of Cities doing everything they're supposed to be doing. Very confident in those organizations. So I'm just trying to make sure our money's there, that's all. Okay.
And Jeremy, you said you guys are audited in the same fashion.
Correct. Yeah, we just started our process.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts?
Did anything change with our attorney legal? So that's a 50% increase as well?
So we're on a monthly retainer, and that has not changed. Hi, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, so the attorney legal will probably be closer to 13,000 than 17?
Well,
I'm
I'll
asking
let them-
I'm asking
yeah.
I'm asking
Yeah.
our lawyer.
I mean, yes, everything is essentially covered under the retainer. You know, if outside of some sort of litigation potentially. So if the board were to get sued for some reason, which, you know, historically has never happened, but it could, I guess. But so no, I would not anticipate our fees increasing at all, really. Again, it's the retainer is pretty all encompassing.
When will we be presented with the retainer for the next fiscal year?
It's essentially it's an evergreen contract, so it continues. You can terminate it without notice. Your other agreements generally have 60 days notice, 30 days notice rather, 60 days from the vendor's perspective. With the exception of my contract. My contract you can terminate without any notice whatsoever. So it's essentially it remains in place. The fee remains in place until either I come for a raise or you guys, want to give me a raise or seek a reduction. But the fee or the contract is not, it's, I guess it doesn't cancel or terminate.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or discussions?
Need a motion?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, you will need, I mean, certainly, if you want to change these numbers in any manner, I mean, please do. It's up to you all. But at some point in this process, we need to approve some sort of budget.
And I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the budget as proposed, as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approved as presented. Thank you. Next item is ratification of expenses and distributions. So the list here of attorney's fees, league fees. And we've previously approved that the city can go ahead and pay these, and then we would approve them through the pension fund. So I just need a motion to approve as presented.
Motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Yeah. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approved, thank you. Next is accept the audited pension fund financial statements, fiscal year in 9/30/23. Is that 23 or 20? No.
23.
Almost ancient history.
I know, that's why.
Thanks. I'm John Hauser, partner with the firm of Wells, Hauser, and Schatzel, the independent auditors for the city and the firefighters pension plan. As previously noted, for the 9/30/23 year end, the option was selected to include the audit within the ACFR or comprehensive financial report of the city. The financial statements of the firefighters pension plan are what's known as a fiduciary fund. They're presented separately, a statement of net position and a statement of activities, and those statements are on page 28 and 29. They are not a part of the city's assets or liabilities. The city does recognize the liability for the unfunded portion of the pension, but none of the assets can be accessed by the city itself, and the fiduciary fund amounts on page 28 and 29 are excluded from the city's assets and liabilities and results of operations. We issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements of the city's financial statements, and those include the basic financial statements, which include the statement of fiduciary net position and statement of changes in fiduciary net position of the firefighters pension plan. Page 28 shows the total, and once again, this is ancient history, September 2023. We just saw June of 2024. Your assets are up to 10.6 million, just about. And at 9/30/23, the net position was about $8.4 million. So pretty significant change from the contributions and investment returns over the expenses and distributions. The statement of changes shows the additions to the plan for 9/30/23 of $1,096,000 and deductions for benefits and admin charges of 133 with an excess or increase of $963,000 for the year. The notes to the financial statement are included with the city. The pertinent notes I've inserted here, and on page 31 talks about a fiduciary fund and its measurement focus and operating statements presenting the increase and decrease in net position. Page 32 shows the fiduciary fund type as the pension trust fund and does state that the amounts are not incorporated into the government-wide financial statements of the city. Page 48 starts the disclosures for the Firefighters Pension Trust Fund. It has a plan description, basis of accounting on page 49, talks about deposits, investments, credit risk, foreign currency risk, and interest rate risk, and the funding policy. The city does contribute on an actuarial basis from a valuation prepared. For 9/30/23, that contribution rate was 55.11%, a substantial jump from the previous year of 27%. I'm sure you've moved forward now and have a rate for your next fiscal year for the city to contribute. And the city does contribute the amounts after each pay period and makes that payment to the plan, as well as using fire insurance premium tax dollars from the state. The city receives those funds and turns around and remits those funds to the plan. And there's also an advanced employer contribution that's available. That had decreased to about $5,500, and I'm sure that was probably utilized for 9/30/24. Page 50, membership of the plan are 17 active participants, 3 retirees, 5 terminated but not receiving benefits, and 9 active plan members. Talks about deferred inflows and outflows, how those will be amortized. The net pension liability is $525,000, and that's shown as a liability on the city's government-wide financial statements. That decreased from the previous year pension liability of $795,000. The plan has long been almost fully funded. It's only reversed here in the last few years, which we'll see in a table later. The page 51 shows the plan information as far as the total pension liability, net position, net pension liability, the valuation date. Discount rate was changed to 7%. That affects that contribution amount that the city contributes, and it's determined on the actuarial basis. Page 52 shows the target allocation of the investments, which you covered pretty well with the Florida League of Cities. Bonds, 15%, core plus 15%, large cap equity, 25%, U.S. small cap equity, 14%, non-U.S. equity, 21%, and the core real estate, 10%. Those really are selected, I guess, by using the options that the Florida League provides to you as far as the allocation of those investments. Talks about the plan amendments over the years. And then in the aggregate total, on page 52, you can see the net pension liability included. This is included on the city's financials, not the fire pension, 525. The deferred outflows and inflows also on the city's financials, and the pension expense shown as an expenditure within the city financial statements. We did talk about part of the contribution is paid from the fire insurance premium taxes. Those are on behalf payments from the state of Florida. And page 63 is what's called required supplementary information, and it shows the net pension liability and the funded percentage. And as you can see, going back to 10 years, 2014, the plan was fully funded up until 18. 19 recession, it was underfunded to 98%. 20, 21 recovered. 22, horrible year in the market. And 23, it's improved to 94% funding rate. And now with the increase in the value of those investments, I'm sure that's improved once again. The schedule of contributions over the years, the actuarial required contribution, the city contributions recognized, and the difference. That difference of 39,452 was paid and covered by the advanced employer contribution, so 100%, each year 100% is funded either through the insurance, fire insurance premium tax, the advanced employer contribution, with the balance being paid by the city. Page 64 shows the changes in the net pension liability. As I said, it's 94% funded. It's been fully funded and with excess amounts in other years except for 22 and 19. So overall, very, very close to being fully funded for the last 10 years. Okay, if anybody's got any questions, I'll try to address them now. And I thank you for your assistance, all the staff during the audit. And once again, this is ancient history. We'll be starting the new audit here soon. Yes,
I won't hold you to it, but two things as far as the city's contribution for '24, projected numbers based on any underfunding. And also, do you think that that 94% kicks up to 100? Your best guess, I'm not going to hold you to it. For
you'd have to look at the actuarial evaluation. I have no idea.
Okay. No worries.
But that, when's your evaluation come out? Have you not?
There will be part of the agenda today for them to approve.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll
Excellent.
find out.
Excellent. Thank you.
And when we talk about fully funded now, because of what the state changes in reporting, that means all of the potential earnings if everybody goes to the end of their retirement. Is that correct?
Yes, that actuarial liability, that total pension liability would be if everyone
Lived to be
draws down.
100 years old, and, yeah, when we had the actuarial report.
Salary increases
we went
for
into the
half
drivers
exactly,
about
and
that.
yeah, it's on target. It's in great shape.
I think for a long time, we were required to be funded to what's been earned, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but then they want us to be funded for all of future as well, so. I don't know if that had a bearing on where it showed we were fully funded or not. Because I know we had some pay increases and job changes too, but.
Well, the biggest factor in there is really the market performance.
So there were no, so I think your question, to make it a little more focused, looking at the timeline of the last 10 years, percentage funded, was there any state legislative action that had caused those numbers to adjust?
Yes, thank you.
So for instance, in 2017, was there a law passed relative to how legally we had to do our actuarial work that then dropped us down from fully funded to 80%? Or is it strictly based on the investment performance? Or we don't know?
It's a multiple of different factors, really. Each affects the other. I'm not aware of any state legislation that would have caused that to have changed. Are you?
There's not. If you want, I can speak to this a little bit. I think the numbers, the funding number he used, the 94%, I think that's the GASB part that the actuary does. The valuation itself, the number that you would be presented with, and I actually just went back to look, you're 101.85%. There's not been any legislative changes that have impacted anything. And what the fully funded versus not fully funded, all that is referencing to is accrued benefits versus future liability. So 100, because a lot of times you go, well, for 100% funded, why are we making contributions? And that's because the funding percentage is based on earned benefits at that time. So in other words, this plan, as of September 30th of '23, already has enough money in it to pay for all of the service that's already been earned. But we expect people to continue to earn benefits, continue to work, so we expect the liabilities to actually be higher. So anytime you're 100% funded or more, all of your contributions go towards future liabilities, future earnings. And that's the case you're in, so that's obviously very good. But that's why you're still the funding versus not funding is more just where's the money going towards? If you're under 100%, your contribution rate, some of it's going towards benefits already earned, and some's going to future, so you're paying more as a result in that scenario.
Okay.
And I think we asked this question, it came up 6 months ago. We're looking at the performance based on a year ago. Can we do anything to speed up this time frame, or what could we do to speed up the audit procedures? I mean, it's a year, it's over a year.
Yeah, it's been a very unusual past 4 years. Okay. You know, whether it be COVID-related, hurricane disaster-related, staffing-related, any number of reasons why there was a delay. We certainly strive to get everything done, delivered by March 31st. And that's really the date that we project to. If something comes up that causes us to miss that, we have to ask for an extension from the GFOA. It really falls in line with the city submitting their annual comprehensive financial report. But March 31st is really our target delivery date every year. Not, you know, we did this report was dated April 18th, so shortly after March 31st. When you had your meeting in July, I was out of town.
Oh, I was too.
Yeah, so I missed that meeting. So it's highly unusual that you see me here in October. Not normally the case.
Okay.
So valid point on we deal with the ERISA plans, and these two hurricanes have pushed our 2023 year-end filings out to May 1st of '25 because of delays. So that is, you know, certainly reasonable at that level.
The federal government has been very generous in allowing extensions of time due to these crazy storms. I mean, it's just been.
Yeah, and I get that, and that's sound, but that doesn't mean you move your,
No.
just because your
I
deadline's
don't
moved,
wanna
doesn't
be
mean
here.
you change your workload.
I wished I was
Right,
here.
you don't take 6 months off because you got 6 months more
I
to,
wished I was here doing audit procedures for September 24 at the moment. Believe me, not my desire to be here in October presenting last year's audit.
so I think during this meeting, we're gonna set dates for our next meetings next year. Is that part of the agenda?
Correct.
Perhaps we have an April 30th or later in April, so that then when the audit's complete, we're getting it within a quick
Yeah.
time frame.
That's fine, yeah.
So I would ask you, what
Yeah, I
date
think-
in April do you want to commit to?
Yeah, I think that anytime after April 15th. You were in public.
We'll give you a
accounting.
couple, we'll
certainly-
give you a couple weeks.
April
I-
22nd is gonna get tossed out as an option.
Okay.
We can go a little later than that.
That would be fine. You know, the problem with the March meeting is that we may not be done.
Exactly, that's
You
why
know,
I don't.
so if you make it in March, I'm not gonna see you till June or July.
Yep,
And yes, April is 22nd would work for me.
you don't take the week, my
No,
daughter's,
no, no.
my daughter's a
I used to
CPA,
take
she
the
takes
day-
the week
I
off
used to take the
after.
day after tax season off. I haven't done that in years.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chuck? Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you.
I believe we've already accepted the report, is that correct?
I don't believe so. I think we would need to accept it now, yeah.
I'd like to move to accept the report as presented.
A second?
Second?
Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Next item is consideration for the annual evaluation report for 10/1/24. We do these every year.
Yeah.
So we just need to approve. Because I think we've received the letter already.
This is the letter estimating the cost for the valuation at $4,875. The report, we try to hopefully get it by January in order to complete our ACFR and the standalone audit.
Typically somewhere between January's March is when vows end up coming out.
Yeah.
We're shooting for January.
No, you should, hey, shoot for December. Go for it, go for it.
First in line.
Yeah, I say, we get it in first.
Right, it's first come, first served.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the sooner we get these in, the higher up on the list we are.
Do we contract with the actual aerial firm directly, or is that via Florida League of Cities?
You have two different options. The one that you all been using is we work, so it's not our actuary, but it's somebody we've essentially partnered with. If you use them, it goes, you contract through us with them,
So
but
we
it's
pay your
it's
bit-
to them.
we
They
pay
send
your
us a
bill.
bill, we send it to you. The advantage you get there is typically this actuary runs 60-ish%, give or take, of what most actuarial services cost around the state, so there's a big fee reduction. This board is certainly willing, or capable, and could use any actuarial firm you wanted to.
And what increase is that from the previous year?
Are you going back to the budget page now?
No, I'm just going from the actual, so the cost is gonna be,
I just have to go back to look at the actual, what were they? I don't know off the top of my head. Eight.
okay, so it was 4875 and it's gonna be
I
4875?
think it's 4,700, so
48.75.
4875, okay, yeah.
So it's gonna be 4875?
That's to provide the vow. Now, with a lot of these things, such as attorney, we talked about, he mentioned other things that could happen if you had a disability case, typically, very
Yeah.
unfortunately, those drive legal costs through the roof. With an actuary, you have so that is the number for your
Okay.
valuation, but then benefit calculations, if you all as a board decide to do cost studies, there's other things that create costs, so again, we have, that's why we typically have the extras in there for the unknowns that come about, but that is not an estimate, that will be your cost for just the valuation.
Okay.
Very reasonable. Motion to accept the proposal as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other questions, discussions? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Next item is the prison tax distribution.
And it's just informational again that you all did receive it, looks like on August 13th of $96,242.86.
Wasn't there a big staff party right after this was received? I was wondering where that money came from on that
The-
trip to Aruba.
And this check to the state is for,
From the state to the city, yeah. So this is,
matching.
actually, that's a really good question for the newer trustees. This is very important. So when you say, why do we do some of the things we do that maybe make you scratch your head, it's for these purposes. So we do have to check certain boxes, do certain things throughout the year. We also file an annual report that's due March 15th. That annual report must be approved by the state. If it is, then we get these dollars that come back. Typically, we'll get the check in August, and I believe there is going to be a supplemental amount this year. You don't have that yet, though, right? Oh, you got it already? Oh, wow, okay. Do you know how much it was, by chance? 55,000? Okay.
We have to mail it today.
Yeah, yeah.
so where do we?
So,
re- so-
go ahead.
Yeah, so where do we reflect that number? Is it part of contributions or earnings?
Would be, so.
Okay.
Let me see. Well, so it's gonna show on your next report, but I'll tell you where, if you go to page,
I'm looking at page 7. That's where that summary, just very interested in where this money from the state shows up.
yes. So it will show up on page 8 in your next report under contribution detail. Because it came after June 30th.
Yep,
Yeah.
got it.
And then the 55,000 will
So-
reflect in your December 31st report.
So it looks like that's up substantially from last year. Is that how I'm reading this correctly?
I'd have to go back to look no, I don't recall last year's.
16,000 for 9/30/23.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's actually down a little, but then a big supplemental on the back end. She said 55,000? That's a big supplement. Yeah, yeah. So this money we're referencing is, there's an extra tax, that's collected automatically, on property taxes in the city of Oldsmar. And that money goes to state. Now, if this, or if this, pension plan follows these rules, again, does the annual report, there's a lot of other things that we have to do. But if we do these, then you get a prorated amount, that is sent back to all the participating, police and fire. So fire, it's a tax on property insurance. For police officers, they get some money too. It's a tax on auto, insurance premiums. And so that money is sent back, and then that money, is negotiated on how it gets used. It can be split up between either the participants in the plan and the city. The city can get it all, the plan can get it all, but usually what happens is the city the municipality will get at least some of it, and they use it to help offset, the costs for the plan. So the contribution rate, whatever it is, they're gonna use they're gonna have $150,000 to put towards that for the year.
Okay. So I assume that all of that goes into the, okay, great.
Yeah, in this plan, the city keeps it all, right? I think.
The plan keeps it all.
Well,
But it's applied to.
who gets credit for it? There's some plans that, some of that money, the firefighters get there's a share plan set up that they get some of those funds
Okay.
as extra retirement benefits.
Any questions or discussion on that? Thank you. Next item is discussing the process for retirement of a firefighter board member. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but I've put in my notice for retirement in January. I hit 25 on October 11th this month, right in the middle of the storm.
Congratulations.
And so come January, I'll be retiring. I don't have an exact date yet, but we're just trying to discuss, and Pedro, maybe you can help us with this, what the process is can I stay on the board? Do we need to replace my position on the board? We're not quite sure how that works.
So if you can help me, you are one of the elected positions, right? So there's
Correct.
two that are elected by the members of the plan, the firefighter members. There's two that are appointed by council, which must be city residents. And then those four select the fifth member, the fifth trustee, which really the only requirement is alive and willing, right? So I'm assuming you're holding one of the elected position seats. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So no, the answer is you cannot continue to serve in that seat. I don't know if you still live within the city limits. And what the two council appointed trustees are envisioning, but you could potentially hold one of those seats going forward at some point. And then obviously you can always hold the fifth seat as well, depending on who's in that role. So the answer, in true lawyer speak, it depends. You could stay on the board, but obviously, it would have to be in one of those other seats or one of those other trustee positions.
Okay.
And then for your seat, I'm not certain how it's been done in the past, but an election would need to be held to replace you. And then I think I saw on the agenda, your term expires
In April.
4/11 of 25. So you said, I think I heard you say you were leaving in January.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the election would be to fill the unexpired portion of your term. So, that January through April 11. And then, a subsequent election would need to be held for the following term.
Okay.
And I'm
Probably
just
one
not sure
meeting.
how that's been done in the past. I don't know if the clerk's office does that, if the union does that, so I just don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think our clerk's office has led those for us.
Okay. So yeah, so that would be the process. So, I'm assuming, there's a nomination period, and then once the nomination period closes, if there's only one candidate, if there's only one nominee, then obviously you don't have to hold an election. They would win by acclamation. And they would fill those 3 months and change, I guess, for the unexpired portion of your term.
Okay.
And then we'd kind of have to do it again for the next or the subsequent term.
Okay, because there was a question as to whether there was a possibility for someone retired to stay in the closed plans, but that doesn't matter regardless.
So it does and I guess it would be a question, and and I just don't know the demographics right now. It has to be, the active membership has to fall below 10. And then there's some different rules or things that we can do to seat the board members. Do you know about how many
I'm pretty sure
folks
we're
we have left?
I'm pretty sure we're at 9.
I think so too.
Okay. So then the active firefighter seat, it can be held by either a retired member or an active member of the plan who's elected, by the active and the retired members.
Okay.
So
So-
Pedro,
so-
does there need to be any action taken? Or does that just automatically go into effect when they drop below 10 actives?
No, well, it doesn't go into, I guess it's triggered, right? But it allows it opens up the avenue for, some
More potential
some
candidates.
flexibility on who to seat. So I would say that in this instance, just because of the timing, if Renee is willing to serve out the remainder of her term as a retired member, she could do that. She would be legally allowed to do that. And then she could run again for the subsequent election for that seat. She could run again, or obviously it could be an active member.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good staying till April. And then
You might as well
Okay.
just stay on past then.
give me something to do, right?
Yeah,
My husband's
What's that song? Hotel California.
yeah. You can check in, but you can never leave.
So Renee, that could be, you can, if your decision now is, you can fill out the rest of your remaining term through April.
Okay.
Then, you can decide then whether you want to nominate yourself or whether someone wants to nominate you to continue serving for the next term, right?
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions on that? Okay. So next item is our meeting schedule.
Okay. Pedro, did you want to take this one, or you want me to cover what was emailed?
No, I would suggest you take it because I'm kind of at my life is run by by my daughters, my wife, and Jessica at my office. So she kind of tells me where to go and when to go. So
Okay. So she
as
said,
long as you guys clear these dates, then I think I'm okay on my end.
yeah, so Jessica on his end, not our Jessica, did send over some proposed dates for next year. There's two, and I don't know how you want to address this. Two are proposing different start times. So I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, or if you just want to go to the dates and then come back to start times.
I'm open.
We'll start here. January 14th, just at regular, which has been 10 o'clock.
That works for
Everybody
me.
Okay. And then the next one was April 22nd. But the note is requesting later start time of 1 PM for in-person attendance on that day, as we'll be attending another meeting in the area that morning.
I'd like to give our auditor another week, just to make sure that we have a little leeway in making that deadline, and then we can probably have a regular start time.
So let
I
me,
think so.
Pedro,
I can check. Yeah, hold on.
do you
Let me
share
see if I
costs?
I'm sorry?
You share costs on travel, right?
I do.
Okay. So just,
But let me see what the following week looks like on my end.
so maybe this will work, but just so you all know, you do get a savings when he has other board meetings in the area. He splits his travel costs, so there is a little bit of savings. So if you move to a
Why does
different date,
why does he have to be here? In person?
that's between you all and him.
Yeah, it's something the board had requested. Originally, he started in person every meeting,
Okay,
but then with staffing, there was some,
so that's why our budget jumps by $5,000 for travel, by $4,000 for
to allow
travel.
for travel.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we revisit that?
We can.
Because I don't, he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
I don't know why we need to see his, you're a good-looking man, but I don't know why we need to see you in person.
I have legs, I promise. No, I mean honestly, I'm willing. I'm happy to work with you guys. Again, it's not. If you guys want me there, I'm happy to be there. It's just again. That's the reason why I asked for some accommodation, just in the timing of it. If it's okay remotely, then obviously I can. I'm a lot more. It's a lot more flexible in terms of the timing and everything like that.
Pedro, let me ask you, do you see any major legislative impacts relative to pension boards that are proposed or on the agenda in Tallahassee?
Not that would affect our plan. I do. There has been a bill filed the last, I guess, 2 sessions now, and everything that I hear it will be filed again this year. It's geared towards amending the Florida retirement system, FRS, and it's going to add back a COLA that was removed. Almost a decade ago now, or more than a decade ago now. So that's on the agenda. That's going to come into play. But I have not seen anything really with respect to local law plans such as ours that would really kind of move the needle too much.
So would I make a motion at this point to allow the meeting, the April meeting, to be, our law firm to be remote? Is that the process that we go through? Or do we got to,
I
an
don't think you
agenda
need. I
item
mean,
on
from my
it.
perspective, you don't need a formal motion. If that's the board consensus, I can. I'm happy to accommodate.
we probably ought to vote on it
So
anyway,
so that's
right?
not a problem on my end.
Just, we could, yeah, just do a vote.
10 a.m. does work better for me than 1 p.m., so I don't
Keep
take a
them-
whole day off of work.
Well, but I don't think he can, but he will be at another meeting that morning, so we would need to look at the following
That's
week,
right.
which is what you're suggesting,
I'm
right?
suggesting two things. One, we give our auditor an additional week of time to prepare the report, and we'll end up getting it, 5.5 months sooner than this year. And then the second issue is, do we need Pedro to be here in person?
So you want to look at April 29th, the following Tuesday, is that,
If Tuesdays work for everybody else,
Fine with me.
Sure.
okay?
I'm good with both.
I'm retired, so it doesn't, and you'll be retired, so yeah.
So April 29th at 10 a.m.?
I'm okay with virtual too.
So for whatever it's worth, I can be there at 10 a.m. on the 29th if it's virtual. If not, I would not be able to be there.
Sounds like we're virtual then?
I'm okay with virtual, yeah. Pedro.
Okay, all right.
All right, and then the next date was July 10th, regular start time again.
That's good for me too.
Okay.
That's a Thursday?
It is a Thursday, yeah.
So,
It is a Thursday, correct?
we may have been choosing specific dates, because Brian was previously on shift, but he is now on days, so.
Yeah,
it
any
may be
day
an
works. I'm
option
here
to-
Monday through Friday, so.
October 14th to 25 is a Tuesday.
We're talking about July 10th.
Oh, July
July
10th?
10th,
I've been an overachiever, I'm sorry.
So if we need to adjust the day of the week, I think that's an option too.
I think July 10th is good, because with the 4th of July, some people might be taking a long weekend or something.
Good for me.
So July 10th, okay. And then the last one was October 14th with a requested 11 a.m. start time for in-person.
Well, again, 10 a.m. is better for me, but it's not the end of the world if it's 11 for me, but.
Maybe we leave that for now and then we look at
Yeah, yeah,
it at our next
and just to
meeting.
jump in, the only reason I said 11 on that one is because the first flight I can get out that morning, I have a meeting the evening before, so the first flight I can get out gets me in right about 9:30, 9:40. So I may make it, or if, unfortunately, if the flight's delayed, I may not. So that's why we asked to push it back about an hour.
Can we go with the 14th? Can we go as it being remote and then as we go through these future dates, if we need them in person, we bring them in?
It sounds like he's going to be flying on that day anyways, right, at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's to come here for this meeting.
Oh,
Is
I
that
see.
correct, Pedro? That flight
Yeah, he
was-
would be flying for this meeting, correct?
That's right. That's right. I would fly in for that meeting. That's correct.
So yeah, we could go with 10 a.m. on the 14th and Pedro is remote.
Would that work for you, Pedro?
Yeah, that's fine. And again, I mean, if I can make it up, that works.
Or if we need
I
you,
would-
we can
Just-
reschedule, we can do whatever we need to do to get them in. Yeah.
So 114, 429, 710, and 1014, all at 10 a.m.?
All remote, yep.
Yep.
All right.
Me. So next item is our attorney update.
Okay. So luckily, nothing to report on from my standpoint. Really, no. I did just want to mention, I know we have a couple of new trustees, but I think we already covered this. Everybody got their financial disclosure forms filed, hopefully. And so, but absent that, nothing really to report on from a legal standpoint.
And is the state still doing the trustee school in November?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. So yes, there are some educational opportunities. The State Division of Retirement, that's the state agency that's charged with administering our pension funds and local law plans in the state. They are holding their trustee school. It's going to be over in Daytona Beach Shores. I think it's the first time that they do it there, but that's going to be, if you give me 1 second, it's November 14, 15, and wait, hold on. Yeah, sorry. 13, 14, and 15. The first day is the 13th, it's a Wednesday. Is exclusively for new trustees. So if anybody is interested in attending, it is a free conference. The only charge, obviously, room and board and any kind of travel that would be reimbursed by the plan as a reasonable expense. And then, but meaning free conference, there is no registration fee for the school. The only thing they charge you for is if you want printed out materials, the slide decks and the presentations for all the speakers and things like that. There is a charge. I think it's, I don't know, $150 or $175 if you want the printed materials. But otherwise, you can just download everything to a laptop or a tablet, an iPad, whatever device you have. And so it's a good opportunity. It's usually fairly well attended. There's maybe about 150 or so trustees that do attend. So if anybody can make it, it's a good one because you can kind of jump in and jump out. If your schedule doesn't allow for the full period, it's that last day on Friday. It's usually over. It's just about a half day. It's usually over by about lunchtime, 12, 1 o'clock maybe. So if anybody's interested in attending, you can certainly go make it over for that one. And then the FPPTA, I don't think we are members though. Is that correct?
We are.
I always forget. Oh, we are? Okay, good. So the FPPTA, the Florida Public Pension Trustees Association, they just had a school about 2 weeks ago. They'll have another trustee school coming up at the end of January. And then they'll have a summer conference It's usually right around July 4th, but we can get you those dates certainly. But the next school that they're having, that's going to be at the end of January. And if you give me 1 second, I can tell you the dates of that. Um, So that it's going to be January 26th through the 29th. And that's going to be over in at the Renaissance Hotel in Orlando. And then the summer conference, no, just in case, obviously we'll talk about it before then, but June 22nd to the 25th. And that's over at the Omni and Champions Gate, also in Orlando. So those are some upcoming educational opportunities if anybody's interested and anybody can block off the time. Those are some good ones to go to.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Any
you all.
questions for Pedro? Thank you. Okay, just need a motion to adjourn.
If I may, real quick, if you don't mind, I just want to go ahead and get something out there. We are unfortunately, like the rest of the world, the costs have finally caught up to us as well. At the next meet, we're going to send out a letter, probably will go out soon because on our end, we just passed our new budget and fee increases, but we are going to be asking for a fee increase. It's the first one in 40 years since the pension trust fund started that we've ever had to increase our fees. We've been able to organically keep up with growth of the different funds, but again, our costs have gotten to us. So we will be requesting a fee increase that would go into effect January 1st. Obviously, that's going to be with your all's approval, and that'll come. You'll get the information ahead of time, but that'll be something we talk about at the next meeting. But I want to go ahead and just kind of put that out there, let you know ahead of time. And certainly if you have any questions now, you may have questions then. Be happy to answer, but I just wanted to make sure I got that out there.
Is that in the budget?
It is not accounted for in the budget, no.
Okay.
No.
So we got a real increase, but not in the budget, and then other increases in the budget that are unreal.
When that is forwarded to the city, can we have a copy sent, or do we have to wait until the next meeting to receive that?
No, the city actually is not involved in that. It's entirely a board matter. You as a pension board, you decide who runs your plan, who handles your investments, who your attorney is, who your actuary is, who the audit is done from. The pension board is actually, not that we're keeping them in the dark, but
But we just want to, when it comes in, do we have to wait until the next meeting to review it, or can we get a copy of the revised fee quote once it's available?
we can send it to all the trustees.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Yeah.
be happy
And
to.
when do you expect that to go out?
I've heard soon. That's above my pay grade on that part, but I would expect in the next few weeks. Yeah.
So you don't mean a few weeks, right? Because it'll be almost January 1st in a few weeks.
Okay.
Right? I think a few is being 6 or 7.
Oh, I was thinking more 2 to 3, but
Okay,
I
that's-
don't know.
that's
I'm
fine,
not,
that's
I'm
fine.
not, I have no control over that one.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I'll speak for myself. Looking at some of these expenses, by the time we get the bill, it's too late, right? We're going to be meeting in January, our next meeting.
Right.
The bill's going to take effect January 1, so it's like, oh, you guys can spend it if you want to or not. Well, yeah, we're already in, right? So we don't have time to really do anything about it, is my
No,
point.
I understand. I can tell you, well, certainly when we're similar to Pedro, I think we have a 30 or 60-day clause or something. Look, if you all need to make a change, you can make a change anytime. If you find that the fees are inappropriate, don't work for you all in any way, we're not going to come back and be like, well, we're going to charge you anyway, even though you didn't approve it, if you make the change. The only way we're gonna charge you starting January 1st is assuming that you all understand and agree that it's a fair price. We're not looking to take, I understand what you're saying is, well, you're charging us before you even let us know what you're charging us, and we have no recourse. That's not,
Well, there's recourse, no doubt about that.
Well-
So thank you for bringing this up. What is our procurement process on evaluating these types of services on a regular basis?
they're, yeah.
Board decision.
So we can just say, we'd like to put out an RFP for services associated with managing the City of Oldsmar firefighters pension. And then you guys pick that up, assign a buyer, assign someone in purchasing to manage that process? How does the process work? So we don't have
I
a
think-
purchasing department or.
You would have
I
your,
think typically, and I don't know if we've done this here, but typically, we will prepare or draft the RFP for the different providers. Obviously, if it's the lawyer, then we would not do that. But we can obviously provide a draft of that. But we typically provide we'll provide and send out the RFPs. So let's say in this case, we're talking about third-party administrative services. That's what Jeremy and his team handle on behalf of the board. And so part of this is also it's a separate piece, right? But included as part of this is also we are members of the FMPTF, the Florida Municipal Pension Trust, right?
trust fund, yep, you got it.
Trust fund. Thank you. Sorry, it's a long acronym.
Yeah, it is.
And so the benefit of that is that we're kind of pooled in with a number of other funds, but we have access to obviously fee discounts and larger managers that we wouldn't otherwise be able to take advantage of. That's the consulting side. But for third-party administrative services, that's Jeremy and his team, and that's I believe where the increase would come. So if the board would want to look at what other providers would look like, we would draft that RFP. We would send it out to the different firms here in the state of Florida. There's probably 5 or 6 that would kind of do this work or that really do this work well. We could obviously add whomever, if anybody has anybody they would want us to consider or want to add to the list, happy to do it. And then we would work with the board in terms of how you want to go about evaluating these things. We have different clients that kind of do it differently. They'll receive the RFPs. We have some boards that will narrow it down to 2 or 3, right? And then they'll bring in those kind of finalists for an interview, and then they'll make a selection. We have other boards that simply just based on the RFP, they'll narrow down the list and they'll pick the top. They'll choose whomever from the responses, and they'll kind of forego the interview process and they'll hire that person. And any derivation or variation therein, we can probably fit in as well. So there's no set process. There's no legal requirement, as is the case for example, the city of Oldsmar, right, and other public agencies in the state that have very specific laws, procurement laws that they're required to follow. This pension board is not required to follow any specific law, but obviously as fiduciaries, right, we want to make sure that we're covering our bases and doing things correctly.
What would you charge, or what is the range of charges associated with developing an RFP?
That's included as part of our retainer. So there's no additional charge for that.
Wow. Okay.
And I just wanted to clarify, I think I heard somebody say it. We don't have another meeting this calendar year. The next meeting we're having is that January date?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other
So
questions?
trustees, you can always call a special meeting. That's an option as well. You know, obviously that entails, you know, kind of wrangling everybody and getting them in the room, but that is something that you can do. But apart from that, right, any discussion or decision would need to take place, obviously at a publicly noticed meeting.
Hopefully, a fairly modest fee increase will negate the need for that.
Well, it's depends on how you want to look at it. I do believe it's roughly a 20% increase, which is, I was looking at you all, so it's going to be, it looks like, and again, this isn't, don't take this as exact, but I think it's pretty close from what I've been told so far. It looked like you were roughly 19,000 this year in fees. That would be just under 23. Had that fee increase been in play this year. One thing we've always done is we have made sure that we do provide these services at a much lower cost than anything else that you'll be able to find around the state. And we also hope that our services are as good or better as well to go along with that. So we did a lot of homework to see what, and just to build a little bit on what Pedro said, I'm sure we'll discuss again next time, but just to give you food for thought. There's 3 different components that we feel that you would individually have to go piece. We're the only provider that works in this manner. You'd need an administrator, and then you need a consultant, and then you need a custodian bank. All 3 of those are covered in our fee. I would suspect consultants typically are the biggest piece of the pie by a long shot generally. At 22,000, 23,000, you'd probably be hard pressed just to hire the consultant for that dollar amount. And then the other part of it is you do have access to a lot of funds, portfolios, managers that you wouldn't otherwise have access to, and you're getting it at a lot lower fee on their end as well. So even if you could, for instance, get to that manager, that fund, you'd end up paying a higher fee rate. So I think there's a lot of financial savings that we're bringing to the table. And certainly I would expect you all would have a conversation and take whatever due diligence action you feel is appropriate. But I'm also very confident that you'll find that this is still well below typical market rates for everything that we're providing.
So could I or we get a list of the benefits, what we're getting for the $23,000 January 1st?
Sure.
And can we get a copy of the contract?
Sure.
Okay. I assume that's all public record, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing secretive.
And even if it wasn't, you could still have it.
Yeah, that's true too.
Okay, great. Who will drive that? Will you send out a copy of the contract, or will?
Yeah, no, we've got, yeah.
Okay, great.
Send that.
So what do you think on the time frame on that?
Well, the new contract, you want new rates.
things,
You want new rates in the contract.
2 deliverables, the contract, and then also
Current and,
benefits, and you
Yeah.
can take you can embellish on those as much as you'd like.
I don't need to, but I appreciate the leeway.
I think it's also important that we notate the efficiencies that the relationship ties in with the city of Oldsmar, because I know there are some benefits associated with how things are operated. So that's somewhat unique, I believe. So that would also be beneficial in the decision process.
Okay. My only hesitation is I just don't know on the exact fee schedule and when I'm gonna have all that in.
You can
ready to
actually,
hand
you
out. That's my only
can
hesitation.
actually exit out. I don't need to, you've given us enough to go on. I mean,
Okay.
both the contract and the benefits associated with it are regardless of the cost.
Okay.
Right? It's gonna be, the dollars are gonna be what the dollars are gonna be. So, yeah, we know what they were last year, and I'd just like to get really up to speed on,
What we're doing for you.
yeah, what you're doing, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
How about by the end of next week?
That'll be, yep.
good. Any other questions or discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, Madam Chairman.
All second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much for your
much.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, take care.
Thanks,
Have a
Pedro.
good
Thank you,
weekend.
Pedro.
See you, Pedro.
Just out of curiosity, everybody fare okay with the storm?
Thankfully, yeah. So, I think
Yeah, okay.
Oldsmar
Good,
dodged a
good,
bullet.
Yeah.
It could have
Good.
been a lot worse.
Yeah, I think could have been a lot worse. I know there was still a lot of damage, but I think it could have been a lot worse.
And you weren't affected by the tornadoes, were you?
No. I mean, it was just north of us. It's a little bit crazy to see so many tornadoes down in South Florida.